Is there a sense from you, do you feel like maybe we lump the Arab world together sometimes as Americans and don't understand the nuances between the countries?
Absolutely. We believe as Americans that the Arab world is monolithic, but it is very different. It's different culturally. There are nuances between the different cultures. From somebody, for instance, who is from Morocco or from Tunisia versus somebody that's from Egypt or from Saudi Arabia or any of the Emirates. There are differences in terms of dialect, in terms of just cultures. There are lots of similarities in terms of the language, which is Arabic, and also the religious beliefs. About 85% of people in the Arab world are Muslims, and there is a definite impact of the religion in that part of the world, plus in terms of business dealing. So part of the course that we're going to be covering is an understanding of the impact of the religious practices on the businesses.
Give me an example of how the religious side might impact the business side.
One of the examples will be Fridays is a holiday for Muslims. That's when the congregational prayers are. Another example would be, and most people do not work. I mean, that's a holiday and they don't work on Fridays. Another would be maybe in a meeting. It's the call for prayer. And partners who happen to be Arabs and Muslims and practice their religion might just say, excuse me, for 5 minutes, and they just kind of disappear. For a person that doesn't understand what just took place, they might be very puzzled, but if they know it's time for prayer and the people have left to do their prayer, then they will be more likely to understand and be able to communicate better with their counterparts in the Arab world.
What about the sense of time and the sense of meetings and things like that? Is there a difference in that regard?
Absolutely. As Americans, we are very much on fixed time versus the Arab world, which is more on a fluid time basis, and that could be aggravating. And one of the competencies or the skills that folks who are going to be traveling and doing business in the Arab world is they have to be really patient and resilient and not take that as personally. So that's a definite something to look out for. And in the class, we'll be looking at ways to deal with that situation.
And something that we were talking about a little bit earlier is the focus on the collective rather than the individual. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that dynamic plays itself out in business dealings in the Arab world?
As Americans, we're always concerned about the individual. It's me and what am I able to accomplish. In the Arab world, it's different. It's about the family, it's about the company, it's about the group, and people pick not necessarily what's best for them, but what's best for the group, whether it's the family or the company or the organization. So that is definitely something that's different. And as an American going overseas to the Arab world and talking about me and my accomplishment, that would not be necessarily looked very favorably upon. And in the same token, as an American going and doing business in the Arab world, by listening and hearing about people as groups versus an individual, we might say, what's the matter with that person? So it's to raise the awareness of the cultural gap and how to very much widen our reception and not necessarily looking at different things through our own cultural lens, but through a wider lens.
How important is just that, even if you get some things wrong, how important is just having the openness and the making the attempt in the eyes of people when you're doing business over there? That
goes a long way. The relationships, business relationships in the Arab world are very much relationship based. So friendship, exactly. So an American might go there and say, okay, let's get to business. And that's not the way the Arab does business. It's all about building the relationship, knowing about the person. And it could be 2 hours and maybe they talk about business for 2 minutes, but that's what really matters. So the patience and the ability to understand the culture really come into play.
So a deal might take longer than it would in the U.S. to get done, but you may end up with having a friend at the end of it rather than just a partner.
Absolutely. I think that's an expectation at the end of any kind of business dealing in the Arab world.
Which I think that's just a great dynamic that we do well to learn a little bit from, I think. How important is it to engage the Arab world just from a macroeconomic perspective, do you think?
In terms of the business case of doing business in the Arab world, I think there are a lot of factors and a lot of importance that we need to look at in terms of American businesses. Excuse me. One is just the sheer number of people that live in that part of the world. There's an estimated 280 million population in the Arab world.
And what are you classifying there as the Arab world when you say, and which countries are you talking about?
Great question. In terms of the Arab world, it's all the countries whose primary language is Arabic. So you're talking about North Africa, countries like Morocco, Libya, Egypt, and Sudan, and then Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Kuwait, the Emirates, the United Arab Emirates. So all that part of the world is considered to be the Arab world.
But the importance of
the
engaging.
importance, okay, so it's 280 million people. In terms of just the Gulf states by themselves, they're looked upon as being the world's 5th largest economy. And so, in looking at just one of the United Arab Emirates, Qatar has the world's highest per capita income. So there is a lot of money there, a lot of money to be made, lots of opportunities. There are a lot of resources, as we all know, in that part of the world. Again, we're looking at just the human resource, the number of people. With countries such as Egypt, with 30% of the population is 24 years and younger. So there's a lot of a future there. And natural resources such as the gas and the oil and lots of other resources. The location of the world in terms of being in the middle between Europe and Asia. So in terms of geographically. And again, the American product, the American technology, and the American service in the Arab world, there's a perception that it is superior than anything else in the entire world. So there's always a hunger for American products, services, and technology. So with all those factors, I think it is great opportunities for American companies to look into the Arab world and see what possibilities there might be there.